What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from the Token Minorities, and I am back with my team builder for week 4 of the GBA D-League Season 3. This week we have a really exciting matchup against AsterJ and the Montreal Habsols. Make sure to check him out. He will be linked in the description below. A very high quality content creator and a very good battler. And it just so turns out that this week is a clash of undefeated teams. If you saw my battle last week against Jack, we did manage to pick up a win against him, 5-0. Aster also won his game last week, 5-0 against the Magic Activator. So now he and I have clashed in week 4, both 3-0 and both plus 11 differential. So this game is pretty darn huge. Whoever wins this game is going to be #1 in the league going into week 5. So definitely putting my all into this team build, and I do think I came up with a pretty darn good team as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at this matchup here, as my opponent Aster has access to Thundy-Eye, Salamence, Infernape, Cresselia, Metagross, Decidueye, Umbreon, Quillfish, Piloswine, Mega Blastoise, and Zangoose, with his Z captains being the Salamence and the Quillfish, which he's probably not running a Z move on that anytime soon, but Z Salamence especially is what I need to keep in mind. So his team is very fat. That's definitely the central focus of his draft. He really wanted to have a fat team with a few very threatening offensive members, in this case the Thundy-Eye Salamence, with the Z-Captain Salamence and the Infernape. So those 3 Pokemon combined are very threatening offensively to my team, and to any team really, so we did a very nice job in drafting his team. I'm not a huge fan of the bulk of his team. I do like bulk, but I don't like passive bulk like Cresselia and Umbreon. I feel like they're just very easily abused in the Z move era of draft format, or of Pokemon in general. So, but he's been able to use him really well throughout the season, so full credit to him. Of course, he's not 3-0 for no reason. He's certainly earned the record, despite maybe getting a little bit lucky in some of his games, but we'll let that slide. But even so, really exciting matchup for sure. Now let's go ahead and dive into his team a little bit and some of the potential flaws I might be able to exploit. So I already mentioned the fact that his defense is very passive, the Cresselia, Umbreon, that he really does lean on to take hits on both the physical and special side, are very passive and very weak to taunt, just like what you saw last week against the Don Fanatic. Taunt, stall breakers in general are going to be a central component of the team that I am building for this week. Actually going to bring the same exact stall breakers as what I brought against Jack in the Mew and the Tornadus T, as both of those combined just put in so much work against his team. All the defensive components of his team are very well handled, actually, by a bulky Taunt Torn and a stall breaker Mew with Super Fang. So that will be the core that I build around once again here. Luckily I don't have to worry about something like a Volcarona setting up in my face in this matchup, but I do still have to be very aware of the fact that Thundurus can set up in a variety of ways. The Salamence is especially threatening with the Dragon Dance set, although I do expect to see Choice Scarf in this matchup, and Infernape of course is very threatening with its both physical and specially offensive boosting options, and Swords Dance and Nasty Plot. And I think I might get Bulk Up as well, but you never really see that because Swords Dance is just better in that case. But even so, even just a choice locked Infernape is also a pretty big threat, or even just a mix attacker Life Orb variant could also be pretty good. I could also see a Stealth Rocker, so Infernape could do a lot of stuff against me. I really do expect to see it though, and I just think he has to bring the Thundy, the Salamence, and the Infernape if he wants to have any sort of offensive presence against my draft. All 3 of them do have pretty good speed tiers against my draft as well, so that's another reason why I could certainly see him deciding to bring those as his offensive core, not only because they are just really good Pokemon in their own right, but the speed tiers certainly come into play. But you know, we'll just kind of see what he decides to do. I really think the Mega Blastoise will probably come as well, just because it is able to do a lot of damage to me offensively and take any one hit from the majority of my team. Blastoise is one of those mons I really have to just chip down over time, or just get off one big hit whenever I can, maybe with my Tornadus for example, and try to chip him down with Torn while being able to recover myself with the Regenerator. So maybe a Hurricane plus a U-turn or something like that would be my best way of efficiently chipping down the Blastoise without losing a Pokemon every single time. So just something that's going through my head while building the team, and even before building the team as well. So Mega Blastoise, breaking that down will be a little bit annoying. I really
don't expect to see the Zangoose. I don't like its speed tier against me at all. I have so many things that are above base 100, even bulky things above base 100, or at or above base 100. Zangoose only being base 90, not really the biggest threat in the world if it is going to be just a standard Toxic Orb set. The Piloswine I think could come as a rocker. He's brought it a lot this season as a potential rocker. Again, it's very passive, but it would be able to potentially wall the likes of a Nidoqueen. It can switch into Torrentee potentially depending on his spread. It also would be able to switch into Rotom Heat, for example, if it were the thick fat variant instead of Oblivious, and of course it could also switch into Scolipede decently well if he has a Fizz Death variant. So I could see the Piloswine coming if he wants to take a bulkier approach to this game, but what I'm really expecting to see is the offensive core Thundee-Eye Salamence and the Infernape. I'm expecting to see a Rocky Helmet Cresselia for the Mega Kangaskhan. I'm expecting to see the Mega Blastoise, definitely, just because it's a bulky, really annoying pivot for me to deal with. And then the last slot is kind of up in the air. I could see something like Metagross potentially if he wants to run an offensive variant. I could see Umbreon if he wants to bring the Umbreon Cresselia core, but I really don't think Umbreon is that great in the matchup because of how passive it is against a team like mine that has been shown to be very good against the bulky stuff. Just last week picking up a 5-0 against someone who tried to bring bulk against my bulky offense, and really that was abused last week, and I really think that's the message that will get to Astra as well in his team building. So just some thoughts there. The 6th Mon really is up in the air, though. I don't really know what exactly he's going to bring. I think anything really is fair game. I think the Zangoose is the least likely thing to come, to be honest, but everything else, Decidueye is also not very good against me in my opinion, but everything else, you know, we'll just see what he decides to do. But I already mentioned my strategy in terms of building around the stall breaker core of the Mew and the Tornadus T, but in addition to that, I need to make sure I have good responses to the majority of his offensive threats, as those two mainly are there to deal with the defensive threats. So I'll be building around, or using in my build, some priority as well to make sure that his offense isn't able to get out of hand, as his offense is very frail. Thundee and Infernape especially are very frail. The Salamence is a little bit less frail, but even so is frail enough to the point where priority would be able to do a decent amount of damage, maybe pick him off if he happens to be a little bit low after setting up a Dragon Dance. But like I said, I do expect him to be Choice Scarf regardless, so if that is a Choice Scarf Salamence, I have to make sure to have a Dragon Resist on this team. That leaves me with the options of the Cobalion or the Diancie, and I will show you in just a second what I decided to bring for that. So that's about all I really want to say here at face value for this team. Yeah, let's just go ahead and hop on over to the team builder real quick. So as you can see, we're going to kick this off with the Mew. Once again, a Stall Breaker, Rocky Helmet, just to allow me to chip down Infernape a little bit more easily. This also allows me to chip down a potential Zangoose if needed. I'm looking over to my left to make sure I don't miss anything. Also helps me chip down a Metagross if he decides to bring more of an offensive variant of that, as this particular team that I'm bringing didn't actually have the best switch-ins to an offensive Metagross, so this would help me in dealing with that. Combination of Taunt and Super Fang does a lot of work to all of his fat, and by a lot of work I mean a lot of work against all of his fat. If he brings fat against me, this is my win condition because it is so freaking good against his entire team. He needs to be able to break this thing down with setup sweepers, whether it be the Infernape, maybe Nasty Plot, whether it be Thundurus, maybe Nasty Plot. Also the Salamence might have to come into play in terms of breaking down this Mew, but this thing is so good against him. Just overall very solid, and it does have enough speed investment with the Timid Nature and 84 EVs in speed to be able to outpace a Quillfish. I believe just in case he is a max speed Quillfish, that'll ensure that I can taunt him to prevent spikes if he wants to go the Hazard Stack approach against my team, and Psychic of course to hit the Quillfish and knock it out. Psychic as well for the Infernape, and it also allows me to actually touch the Decidueye, as that would otherwise wall this set. So yeah, Mew probably the win con if he brings a fat team, but even so, if he brings balance or offensive, this is still super good against anything he could possibly bring. So to complement that, on the Stall Breaker core we do have the Thundee T. Again, a very fat set overall with some investment in Spadef to allow me to better take hits from his Thundee Eye, as I do have the Wakan Berry on this set. Again, just to make sure Thundee can't set up in my face. The general idea behind this entire team is to deny setup at as many opportunities as possible and still be able to pick off potential setup sweepers with my options in the back, and I will show you my priority in the back here on the Mega Kangaskhan in just a second, but that is the idea behind the Wakan Berry plus Icy Wind, just to ensure that Thundurus isn't able to get out of hand against my team. Combination of Taunt, Hurricane, and U-Turn allows me to also chip down his fat very
well overall. Trying to remember the 68 SPDEF on this set. I believe the 68 SPDEF was specifically for Mega Blastoise. There we go. So it's nice for Mega Blastoise. It allows me to take 2 Dark Pulses from a modest Mega Blastoise, which could come in handy if he decides not to bring the Ice Beam. So this then allows me to be a decent pivot into Mega Blastoise at the very least, to the point where I should be able to get off a Hurricane plus a U-turn and chip him down gradually over time, just like I was talking about before. So Mew plus Torrentee, very, very good against him. The combined win condition if he happens to bring more of a fatter team, which I know Aster does like to do. So next up is the Scolipede. This is a pretty cool set. Basically, I'm expecting him to try to wall Scolipede in one of 2 ways. He could try to wall it with a defensive Piloswine, however I don't think that is a very reliable way to deal with Scolipede, just because I can really easily wear down Piloswine with a variety of other members of my team, and if he brings Piloswine, it's very likely to be his Stealth Rocker as well, meaning it'll take damage on the turn of Stealth Rock. So I don't really think he's going to lean on Piloswine to be his check to Scolipede. I think his best check to Scolipede actually is honestly a defensive Salamence, and I really do expect to see Scarf Salamence, but I think his best possible response to Salamence, or to Scolipede, is a defensive Salamence if he decides to bring a pure response to Scolipede. So I could very well see a Fat Mince, and that's why you see the Rocky MZ on this Scolipede. So the Rock Slide Rocky MZ boost it to a Continental Crush, I believe, at base 140 base power. So pretty strong, not the strongest Z move in the world, but it does do the trick in terms of doing a lot of damage against this team. Combination of Mega Horn and Earthquake allows me to hit the rest of his team for at least neutral damage, which is pretty nice. Earthquake, of course, for the Quillfish specifically, and I don't think, yeah, pretty much just the Quillfish for the Earthquake, but I didn't need it. I don't want to be walled by Quillfish. And Rock Slide, of course, is nice for the Mints and for the Fundy Eye, and Mega Horn, quite frankly, hits the rest of his team. Oh, Earthquake also for the Infernape, by the way, but still, very solid against him. I have the Protect as well, just to make sure I can always outspeed a setup sweeper. If he brings, a Fundy Eye, that's kind of spooky against my team. I want to make sure I can outspeed that. If he's like Agility or something, I might need to be able to hit a double Protect to be able to outspeed it. If he's maybe Salic Berry, which I actually saw in one of my mock battles, then that would be another option to deal with that as well. So overall, pretty good against him. Not really a win condition in this game necessarily, but more so a breaker to, again, help me break through the Cresselia Umbreon core, as well as offensively check his offensive members. So very good against him. Not the win con, like I said, but still very solid. Now next up is the Seismitoad, so bringing a little bit of innovation this week. Can't really take credit for the original Choice Scarfed Seismitoad idea. That belongs to, I believe, Shoddy. Fittingly enough, the person this is nicknamed after, but this is a Choice Scarf Seismitoad because Choice Scarf Seismitoad does naturally outspeed all 3 of his potential offensive options, being or pure offensive options being or all 4 technically, including the Zangoose, but the Infernape, Thunderous Eye, and the Salamence all are outsped by this, and I do have coverage for each of those on this set between a Scald and Ice Punch. Knockoff is nice in case he wants to make Cresselia his switch into this, or Umbreon if that's his Rocky Helmet user. Either way, I expect to see a Rocky Helmet on one of his Fat Mons on his team, and Knockoff will help with that. Toxic allows me to wear down the Mega Blastoise a little bit more easily with my Tornadus, as over time, the Mega Blastoise should be pretty easily worn down, I feel, with this team composition. And despite the fact that Umbreon could easily Heal Bell that off, my team really does not allow him many free opportunities to go into Umbreon, as long as my Stall Breakers are doing their job as they are intended. So that's the Seismitoad. Next up is the Cobalion. This is my switch into a Scarf Mince, or at least my check to a Scarf Mince, as I do have Hidden Power Ice on this. I also have Volt Switch and Focus Blast, so essentially this allows me to switch into Umbreon with ease every single time I need to and get up my Stealth Rocks. Make sure those are up, as if the Stealth Rocks are up, that helps the rest of my team out a lot against them for sure. Focus Blast, of course, to hit the Umbreon as hard as possible. It doesn't OHKO Umbreon, but I don't really need it to. All I really need to be able to do is to keep the Stealth Rocks up against it, keep this Cobalion healthy, and from time to time force Umbreon to recover with the Focus Blast, and that's what that does accomplish. Volt Switch allows me to get off damage on the Mega Blastoise, which I think is his most likely switch into this. Aside from Cresselia. Obviously Cresselia can also switch in, but Mega Blastoise is the most
aggressive switching he can have to this, I feel, because if Mega Blastoise comes in for free, it obviously can fire off a very powerful Water or Dark Move or Ice Move against my team, and I don't really want to switch into that. So Cobalion does make sure that Mega Blastoise is punished whenever it comes in, especially if it wants to hard switch in and take a Focus Blast plus a Volt Switch. That's pretty nice. So that basically ensures my Stealth Rocks are on the field unless he wants to get heavily punished for trying to remove them. So that is the Cobalion. I do have Defense Investment to allow me to deal with Z Mints at +1 basically if I need to. Sorry, not Z Mints, but Adam at +1 Mints is what this allows me to deal with if needed, and even so I can easily scout for Z moves with other members of my team, and then this will still be able to deal with a +1 Mints, but I really don't think Mints is ever going to get +1 for free against my team, quite honestly. It's just not something my team allows, and like I said many times, I still expect him to be Scarf Mints regardless. So yep, that's the Cobalion. I believe this is enough speed for Zangoose as well, just in case. Don't really expect to see that, but you know, it's good to have it just in case I don't want to get bodied by Zangoose after, you know, not really considering it much of a threat. So it's still an option he could always bring. He could bring anything on his team. I know he likes to bring, like, all of his mons early in the season. That's just kind of a habit he has, I feel. So I could see the Zangoose coming, but, you know, I don't really think so either. But, yeah, that's the Cobalion. And then finally we have the Mega Kangaskhan. So this is my Fake Out Revenge Killer. I don't really want to ever click Fake Out unless I absolutely need to either put something in range of Mega Kangaskhan or to pick off a threat that has proven itself to be an offensive threat against my team. So that's the purpose of Fake Out here. I do have a lot of bulk on this though to make sure I can take hits as well as possible from members of his team, like potential Foul Play Umbreon, like Cresselia. If it's not a Calm Mind boosting Cresselia, then I actually could probably 1v1 it with this set because I do have the Crunch, which does have a 20% chance to lower his defense every single time I make contact, so I have two 20% chances to lower his defense each time I click Crunch against the Cresselia, and if I get the defense drop, then I'm actually able to beat the Cresselia 1v1, so that's pretty nice there. Kind of starting to lose my voice, I apologize, it's been quite the week, but I also have the Wish to allow me to stay healthy as long as possible in the face of his defensive threats if needed. But all in all, this is mainly just here to maybe get off a big hit against the Mega Blastoise if needed, but much more importantly to have the Fake Out in the back to make sure that his offensive options are not able to deal or to just sweep my entire team. This is kind of like my safety valve, my safety button in this game. He might start to threaten me with something fast and offensive and frail, but I'll have this in the back. I'll be able to click the Fake Out and just prevent him from doing anything, basically. Prevent him from getting more than one kill. So that is the team. I think it's a very solid team. It deals well with his fat. It deals very well with his offense and pretty much everything in between. So I really think this was the best possible team to bring for this week. I went all out on my prep. I've spent way too much time on this team, but it's a very solid one, and I feel confident with it moving forward into this game. So I hope you guys are looking forward to the Clash of the Undefeated. It's coming out tomorrow. Don't know what time yet, but just make sure to keep an eye on your sub box, or just maybe keep clicking on TTM if you want to keep seeing if it's going to be available or uploaded rather on the channel. So hope you guys are looking forward to that. Make sure once again to go check out my opponent Aster. Really cool guy. I know you'll enjoy watching his content if you haven't before. Also, like I said, very solid battler. He does deserve to be undefeated at this point, so it should be quite the game here tomorrow. So hope you guys are looking forward to that, and I know I am. So I'll see you guys next time. Peace.